everybody and welcome to my Force Awakens review. Ooh, very spooky. With this being a majorly Doctor Who channel, we don't usually do other things, but I do like to talk about other things, so here is another thing that I'm going to talk about. If you want to see more Star Wars stuff, leave a like, tell me in the comments below, and yes, I hope you enjoy. So, what is Star Wars The Force Awakens? It's episode 7. It came out in 2015, as the first big Star Wars film in pretty much 10 years since Revenge of the Sith, which, in my opinion, is a great film. I love it. But yeah. So this film was the big one, the big new one that people were looking forward to. It was exciting, it looked good, it sounded good, and then there was also worries. Disney had bought it, so there was lots of memes about the whole Star Wars sing-along and musical and stuff, and thankfully they didn't go that route, you know. I wasn't expecting them to, but thankfully they didn't. It's a pretty solid Star Wars story, and I'm going to just sort of tell you about that now. It follows different people all the way through till you get to the main sort of plot, similarly to A New Hope, which we'll get to soon enough. So it follows each sort of person. So it starts off with Poe. You follow him till he gets captured and then saved by Finn. Poe goes missing, Finn. You're following Finn now, and then you get to Rey, and then you're following Finn and Rey, and then eventually you get to the Resistance, which is like the new Rebels, but not quite the Rebels, just a different name. That's all that's different, really. Same people. And yeah, the First Order is a replacement empire. It's pretty much that. They all go on a big old adventure together, and the First Order are trying to destroy the Resistance. Not just the Resistance, but actually the entire Galactic Republic, taking out planets at a time. Pretty intimidating. And they're doing it from a big circular space station destroying thing. Familiar. Now let's talk about the characters. Now, yeah, Rey is the main character of this story. That's completely evident. Not from the trailers, not from the promotional material, but the second you get into this film, you have a feeling that Rey is possibly the most important thing about this trilogy. And she kind of is if you've watched The Last Jedi. Yep, spoiler alert, she kind of becomes the main Jedi of this. Yeah, no need for a spoiler alert. The film came out 2.5 years ago. It's old news now. But Rey's a really strong character in this. She has a complicated backstory. She has no parents that she can remember. She's waiting around for the parents. She's a fan and a nerd over the Star Wars universe. Luke Skywalker, Leia, Han, the Millennium Falcon, all these sort of myths and legends from the Rebels. She doesn't really believe they're just a cool story, and she really enjoys them, like me with Doctor Who. Throughout the film, she's evidently pretty good when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. She's pretty good when it comes to wielding a gun, and unbelievably good when it comes to handling a lightsaber. No training, but still manages to take down a Sith Lord. Okay. Well, I mean, fine. I'm not complaining. It was a cool fight. The next character is Finn. Finn's great in this film. Not so good in The Last Jedi, but that kind of ruined my enjoyment of him in this film after watching The Last Jedi. But saying that, when I first watched this, my first initial reaction when watching Finn, the first few times when I watched this film, was good. I quite enjoyed Finn's character. He was humorous, he was witty, he was in it quite a bit, it's a different type of character, you know. You're taking someone who actually was part of the First Order and went, nah, I'm not having any of this, left, and became part of the Resistance, and I think that's very good and very powerful. And his story in this is actually really quite good. It makes you believe that he's going to be the Jedi. It makes you believe he's the one to wield the lightsaber, especially in the trailers as well. But that doesn't quite turn out that way, but he's still a good character in his own right, and I quite like that. Poe was a very minor character in this film. He was... he's a pilot. He's the best pilot in the galaxy. He's working for the Resistance, and he just keeps showing up randomly in the film. No explanation about how he got away from the TIE fighter when it crashed, but he did, and that's fine by me. Apparently he was originally meant to die, but he was brought back for some strange reason. The film producers and all that thought, yeah, that's a good idea, let's bring him back, which is absolutely fine, because he's great in The Last Jedi. Again, good character arc. I quite like where it's going. He's kind of a captain of the Resistance, which we haven't really had before. The great pilot and Jedi aspect was sort of covered by Luke Skywalker, but now we've kind of separated them between Rey and Poe, and I quite like that, you know. There's someone working for the Resistance as a captain, doing all the plans and stuff, and he's the best pilot in the galaxy. He doesn't even have the Force, he's just there with it, mentally stable. And obviously this taking place 30 years after episode 6, we're going to have some classic people back. Han Solo being one. He's in the main chunk of this film. He's great. He really picks up his performance. It's evident that Harrison Ford obviously doesn't like the character. It's been very, very well known since episode 5, really, that he wanted to be killed off, and George Lucas wouldn't let him, especially in 5 or 6. He wouldn't let him, and he was like, I want you part of this film, and obviously he had to come back for this one. You couldn't just explain that he's disappeared. But for someone who I was pretty sure was like, didn't want to do this at all, were assuming a reasonable paycheck, but he seemed to really get into the character, and I really liked that. It was great to see Han Solo and not Harrison Ford playing a version of Han Solo. It was just Han Solo. The second he walks on screen, Chewbacca and him, just perfect, and I absolutely loved that element of it. So brilliant. I just enjoyed watching it, and he was excellent in this film. He sort of brought and mentored Rey and that sort of thing. And yes, he did die in this film, and I think that's absolutely well deserved. His obviously Harrison Ford didn't want to play the character anymore. Fair enough. It was a well done death. It was a really cleverly done. It's just a shame he hadn't had more time to flesh out. But obviously, I didn't want him to come back and be unenthusiastic in the promotionals and stuff. But perfectly fine. I quite like it. Princess Leia, or General Leia, in this film, she was great. She played the sort of Mon Mothma type character, but with more backstory and more emotional attachment. And with a spoiler alert here, but Han and Leia's kid is Ben Solo, the guy behind the mask of Kylo Ren, the big baddie of the film. So that created some great emotional sort of attachment that wasn't sort of evident in A New Hope, especially. It definitely didn't struggle finding its feet at all in terms of that emotional aspect. It really narrowed down exactly what it wanted to do and just went for it. It was really good, and I love that element of it. Talking more specifically about the dark side, here's Kylo Ren. He is pretty cool. I quite like him. I describe Kylo Ren as the Anakin that we should have had. Adam Driver's a brilliant actor, and it's even more evident in The Last Jedi, but specifically for The Force Awakens, he's great. He really, really adapts his character. At first he comes across as already transformed. He's already this Vader type character, at which point you're going, oh yeah, that is just a repeat of A New Hope. But then later on, he comes to the emotional side, the one that has to kill Han Solo, the one that's actually crying as he kills his father, the one that's fighting Rey, screaming, and like, he isn't fully turned, and that's explored more in The Last Jedi, obviously, but the feeling that you get in this is like he is just a child wearing a mask. He is being controlled by Snoke to do this, to do his bidding, and it's not what he wants to do. Or at least it is what he wants to do, but he's struggling to find his feet with it, and he's not exactly like Vader. He wants to be like Vader, but he's just not, and that's a really interesting aspect. He keeps comparing himself to that, and there's a scene with Rey and Kylo sort of going at each other, the mind reading type thing, and it's really interesting because he just reflects it. Well, sorry, Rey reflects it back onto Kylo and says, "You're just never going to live up to Darth Vader," and he just freaks out. He's like, "How do you know that? How do you know that?" Because it's obviously going on in his head, and that's just really clever, and I quite like that a lot. Finally, the other big baddie person is Snoke, Supreme Leader Snoke, the controller and leader of the First Order army. Now, this film alone, we're not talking about The Last Jedi and what happens to him in The Last Jedi. This film alone, I believe, gives a great sort of story and setup for Snoke's character. I think he is a great character. I really enjoyed seeing him. He felt like the sort of hidden emperor of this trilogy, or at least it should have been. And Snoke really comes across quite well in this film. He's evil, he's dark, he shouts, he's not happy, and he's trying to control Kylo Ren. He's trying to make him better. He's trying not to, you know, lose. And his personality comes across more again in The Last Jedi, but this is a great introduction to the character, and I think it's so well done. Anyway, let's talk about my best bits of the film. I really like some bits of this film. First of all, the fight. You always love a lightsaber fight in a Star Wars film. This one was no exception. It was possibly one of the best of all time. It was gritty, it was hard, and it was fast and strong. It wasn't as fast and choreographed as the prequels, and that's what I liked. It wasn't as clumsy as the originals. It wasn't as fast-paced and so perfectly clean as the prequel trilogy was. It was dirty, it was messy, and that's what I really liked about it. It felt more natural. In the prequel trilogy, they just kept, they knew exactly what they were doing, they knew exactly every single move, and it's like, that's just impossible. There's no enjoyment in that, because obviously, you know, one of them dying is not going to be surprised if they know each other's every move, you know? Whereas in this, I feel like they're really just slashing and cracking, and like, the force in which the lightsaber brings down and cracks really makes an impact. And not just that, but the sound effects department is so much better. The noises of the lightsaber slightly tweaked. Now, every time the lightsaber hits something, it makes that sort of bass noise that really gets you going like, wow, okay, that is danger right there. Whereas in the prequel trilogy, like, and it's like, this is just kid stuff. This genuinely feels really good. The the trees coming down, the running backwards, the different locations, all in this one sort of thing. It's not a big indoor arena, it's not a specific room following into different rooms, it's just a forest and the depths of a forest and behind the trees, and it just works so well, especially at night. It's something we haven't really seen explored a lot. The only sort of dark lightsaber fight we had was at the end of Attack of the Clones, and that was just sort of glow sticks in front of the face, and that wasn't that great. Another scene I really liked was the flashback sequence when Rey touches the lightsaber. She hears loads of things. There's Ewan McGregor, there's Alec Guinness there, there's Yoda there, Darth Vader. So much you can hear, and references and callbacks, and it shows you bits of the story, but not enough to get your hands on to really work out until obviously the next film. I really like this scene. It was so well edited in terms of, you know, just visual direction and audible direction. The sound quality, the sound bites, the music, everything felt so impactful, and the second she touches that lightsaber, like, oh my god, that was a mistake, she shouldn't have done that. Although ultimately you wanted to pick up the lightsaber and kill Kylo Ren and fight and do stuff and Star Wars, yeah. I quite like the fact that she didn't, and she just went no, because that's exactly what you do in that situation. If you had a flashback like that and all these different things happening, you're like, I don't want to pick that up anymore, that's not going to happen, and that's great, and I really quite like that, so that's good. Han's death is another one. Now, I'm no supporter of Han dying in this film, obviously. He's bae. But what I really did like about this scene is the slight bits. The cuts to Rey, Finn and Chewbacca staring on like, no, don't do this, don't do this. As all of us were when we first saw it, like, no, don't kill him, please don't kill him. We see this sort of transition of Kylo Ren going a little bit good and thinking, actually, maybe I can do this, and maybe I can just drop down and maybe whatever, and then suddenly impact. What I really liked about this scene is the lighting. Obviously, the Starkiller base outside, big window open, and the Starkiller base is feeding energy from the sun. It's bright, the room is lit up, most of it, when the sun's energy is being pulled in, and this is when Han and Ben are having their moment together, and as Ben's making the decision of whether or not to kill him, the light goes out from the sun, the darkness covers both of the characters, and there's a sort of simmered red glow, and that's when he kills him. The effect of lighting and that was so powerful. Every time I watch that scene, I always look at the lighting and go, that is how you do a death scene. It works so well, and I absolutely love it. So much. Obviously followed by the scream of Chewbacca, the blood-curdling, horrified scream was just awful. And then Rey and Finn kicking off and all that sort of thing, and it leads perfectly into the fight to come. I think it's great. Anyway, overall, this film is brilliant. I really love The Force Awakens, and yes, let's just address something really quickly, because everyone else will go on to this as well. It's a bit like The New Hope. Yes, it is a bit like The New Hope. The droid taking the information to take back to the rebels or the resistance or whatever. The dark side, the good side, the person from a desert planet who is quite independent, wanting to and dreaming outside for a better life, gets picked up and somehow is able to use the Force in the first go. Big circular space station destroying planets, gets blown up with one X-Wing fighter. The different elements of it. The hero, the person who's teaching the main hero, the person who's the sort of older sort of encouragement gets killed off, and it has a really impactful moment for the hero, the main character, which is Rey, obviously, and we see this impacted in the next film. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to A New Hope, but that's not a bad thing. I really like A New Hope, and I really like this film. A New Hope, yeah, is an excellent film, but is dated, and not all the elements are the same. There are very strict differences. Yes, it is similar, and yes, people are aware of that. Yeah, everyone knows the similarities and differences of this film and A New Hope. But what you need to consider is, ignoring the similarities for just a minute, is it a good film? And my answer to that is yes. That's why I'm giving Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a must-buy. Love ya. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment below for any more suggestions in the future, subscribe if you haven't already, please check out the brand new store, Patreon, Discord, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all in the description below, so go check that out. It's all lovely and beautiful down there in that description, so go check that out. It's all lovely stuff. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.